Here we are in Season 21, and I'm going to give you the best carry Pokemon in every single role in the game. Yes, I know supporters aren't often the carries, but I'm going to give you the best ones to carry your solo queue games. Come along with me, everybody. Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw. Big shout out to this video's sponsor, G Fuel. Thank you, G Fuel, for sponsoring this and other videos on my channel. If you want to get some G Fuel with a discount, 20% off, use my link in the description. Thank you very much, and on to the video. I'm going to give some recommendations on movesets and held items that I think are absolutely the best, but as far as battle items and boost emblems, I have a whole boost emblem video that I think is better suited for that. I'll give kind of brief examples, and battle items a lot of the time are up to personal preference. I'll give you a few that I think are absolutely necessary, but in general, it's your call. Like I said, I'm going to give you Pokemon for every single role in the game, and all-rounders I'm going to save till the end because there's just a lot of them that are insanely good right now, so we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to give you a few Pokemon from each role. Let's start with our attackers. There are a lot of good attackers, and I think there are a few great ones in this meta. I want to start with one that is so annoying, so difficult to deal with, and so dang good. That is Delphox. Really, any Delphox build is excellent, but I think Fire Spin is insanely good right now. Whether you prefer Fire Blast for kind of more burst damage, or you prefer Mystical Fire to reset your Fire Spin more easily at level 11, either are going to be a huge hindrance to the enemies, and they're going to set up massive wins for you and your team. For items, if you're in draft, I recommend something like Energy Amp, Spoon, and then Curse. Now, this depends on what's on the other side. Sometimes there just isn't enough healing on the other side for you to have to run Curse, and you can switch that item for choice specs. I think this is a really fun setup, really easy, and of course Energy Amplifier is amazing because you get your Unite move all the time. Battle items in this guide are kind of going to be up to you unless I think something is absolutely necessary, but I like Eject, I like X Speed on Delphox. For emblems, I'd recommend 6 green, 7 black. You want more special attack and more cooldowns. The big thing with Delphox is catching opponents in Fire Spin, using Mystical Fire or Fire Blast to figure out where your opponents are at certain times, and then once you do catch the enemy team, hit them with that Unite move and set up big wins for your squad. It's not too hard, honestly, to get insane value out of the Fox. Just make sure that you can get enough experience so you can get online and get your Unite move, and if you're running the Mystical Fire build, try to get your level 11 as quickly as possible. That way you can get your resets on Fire Spin more easily. As soon as you're hitting opponents with Mystical Fire at 11, your Fire Spin will have a big cooldown reduction, so make sure you focus on getting XP. Our next attacker is Cramorant, a Pokemon that got buffed a little while back and since then has been dominating the meta. It's funny that it got one little buff and everyone started to notice it here. Well, it kind of got 2 buffs. It actually has its Unite move nerfed recently, but it's still extremely powerful. For Cramorant, the real question is, what do you want to pair with Dive? Surf Cram is very fun, but Dive Cram is incredibly impactful, so difficult for enemies to deal with if you are a high-skilled Cram player. A few pieces of advice: if you're playing on Switch, turn your sensitivity all the way up so you can use those dives easier. And if you're playing on mobile, congratulations, you have like unlocked the cheat code for using Dive Cram. It is so powerful on mobile. For items, I like Energy Amplifier, Slick Spoon, and then the third is of your choice. I think choice specs are good, Curse is good. I also think Buddy Barrier is not too bad on Cramorant. Shell Bell is really good if you're running the Air Slash build. So it just gives you a little extra cooldown, which helps you reset your dive and helps you reset your Air Slash a little bit faster. It's kind of been a staple of Cramorant ever since the emblems were around, and Cram got this really nice cooldown reduction that helps with dive and Air Slash. If you're running Dive Hurricane, which is insanely good, you can still run this, but I think choice specs might be a better option. As far as a battle item, I think Eject Button is mandatory so you can reposition the Unite move. Emblems, 6 green, 7 black. The great thing about Cram is it's amazing early and it scales very, very well. As soon as you get Dive, you get to be super annoying. Make sure that you're fighting enemies aggressively, and then when they move in, use the environment around you to dive away from them in really annoying ways and still hit them with your boosted autos. Next attacker, it wouldn't be right to not include Mewtwo Y. Yes, Mewtwo Y is still insanely good, and EX Pokemon are kind of not all the rage anymore. I think a lot of people are oddly sleeping on Mewtwo Y, which sounds insane to say, but I think now that it's not as OP as it was before, people have forgotten that this thing is still one of the best auto attackers, if not the best auto attacker in the game. For Mewtwo Y, the item build is unique. It's Slick Spoon, Muscle Band, Rapid Fire, Scarf. It's because you really need to focus on your attack speed. Once you Mega, you kind of go absolutely insane. That's why I recommend an X attack for your battle item. You just know that every time you go Mega, pop your X attack, you'll be attacking with more damage, more attack speed, a little bit of everything that makes Mewtwo Y so annoying. As far as your moves are concerned, I think Side Strike is very good, but I actually think that Future Sight is better, and I think Teleport's probably definitely the way to go after the Recover nerfs. So Teleport allows you to move in and then even retreat if the fight is looking bad. Future Sight gives you another option to push enemies away and stop anyone from diving on you. If you play your positioning right with Mewtwo Y, you will dominate matches. Enemies can't do a lot to you, and you can keep retreating, and every time they move in, you can shut them down. The emblems from Mewtwo Y are insanely specific. It is a 7 red emblem setup. There are a ton of good attackers in the game, so it's kind of hard to round out this list. There are a lot I'd like to have on there. Things like Sylveon, Espeon, I think are very good. I think Gardevoir is in a great space, but I do want to talk about Inteleon. Inteleon feels like it's been left behind a little bit in the public consciousness of Pokemon Unite, but I think Inteleon is insanely good. Of course, I'm talking exclusively about the Snipe Shot build. Fell Stinger, Snipe Shot is the way to play Inteleon. It's the only build that has a consistent win rate, and if played correctly, it carries so unbelievably hard while keeping you a mile away from the action. Not only does this carry in fights, it also sets up a lot of situations where you can win because you can secure incredible last hits and objectives, whether it be with Snipe Shot or even just with your autos with your Unite move. Your items are going to be Slick Spoon, Wise Glasses, Choice Specs. Just a lot of special attack damage so that you can KO your opponents and secure those juicy last hits. I think Eject Button's probably the best battle item, followed by X Speed, and your emblems 6 green, 7 black are the way to go. The nice thing with Inteleon is you have an incredible early game, so make sure you maximize KOing all of the wild Pokemon that you can, getting those last hits with Water Gun, and then as the match goes on, use your defenders and supporters as a front line and vision so that you can chip away at the enemy team. And then if they're getting low and it's getting kind of dangerous for them, start to move in, pop your Unite move, auto attack, and take everybody down. One of the best Unites in the game still, I think. This next Pokemon is slept on pretty hard, but it got a really nice change for this build. Yes, I'm gonna talk about it, Duraludon. Specifically, Flash Cannon, Stealth Rock, Duraludon. I know what you're thinking, but Jake, that was just a thing that happened and then everyone forgot about it. But Jake, you're so cool, I'll listen to anything you say. But Jake, how much can you bench? Enough, you guys. Let's talk about Flash Cannon, Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock is probably the biggest thing about this build. It is an easy stun, and at the same time, it gives you a shield. And then on the other side, you have Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon's attack speed increase is massive. This is a really specific Pokemon with a really specific playstyle, but it is so undervalued, so incredibly good, so difficult to deal with, and you can even set up situations where it makes it hard for opponents to dive on you with Stealth Rock and your Unite move having a push. It's not the perfect Pokemon, but it's climbing in win rate with the Flash Cannon build, which I cannot believe I am saying. Your held items are going to be Muscle Band, Rapid Fire, Scarf, and a Scope Lens to take advantage of your auto attacks. Your emblems are going to be 6 white, 6 brown. I like using mine with a little extra critical hit. We'll say farewell to the attackers, but there are a lot of really good ones in this meta, so if I didn't list one of your favorites, again, like Gardevoir or Sylveon, even Chandelure, which is doing quite well right now, just know that they are very solid picks. There's just a lot of them. Let's move on from our attackers and let's start talking about the defenders. Now, there are a ton of great defenders for defending, but these ones not only defend, they attack, they carry. I'm going to start with everybody's favorite and one of the most OP defenders in the game right now, and that is Slowbro. Slowbro is insanely good with whatever build you decide to put on it. The harder you want to carry, the harder you can carry, depending on what's on the enemy team. I don't think that sentence would make it into the top 10 sentences I've ever been through, but we got to the end of it, and I think that's what's important. Now, obviously, I think EXP share is insane and you should be running it, but we're talking about carries right now. So if you're planning to carry with Slowbro and play the Scald build, usually you'll be playing Scald Amnesia, maybe Scald Telekinesis if you're carrying. Surf is also insanely good. You are going to be running Slick Spoon, Choice Specs, and Special Attack Specs. This is the carry version of Slowbro. Of course, you can switch these things out with EXP share, Resonant Guard. These are great choices, but I'm talking to you about carrying right now. This is like playing Slowbro as almost an attacker, basically, while being insanely tanky. I mean, there's really no bad way to bring this thing into a match. As far as battle items, I think X Speed is pretty good. I think Potion is also quite good. I like Eject Button a lot so I can secure big time KOs with Slow Beam. I think it's important to be able to reposition slightly so that you can either save a teammate with a Slow Beam or you can grab that pesky carry that's just been so difficult to deal with. Like, let's say your team gets some damage on them and you know if you quickly eject and grab them with Slow Beam, you can pick up a KO and change the fight. I think that's extremely important. For emblems, I've been running 6 white, 6 blue, 2 green, but if you're trying to play this as a hard carry, you could run 6 green, 6 white. You also could run 6 green, 7 black. I don't know if you need the extra cooldown right there, but it couldn't hurt. Our next carry defender, Trevenant. Trevenant is insane. Trevenant's insane as a defender. It's insane as an all-rounder. Like, it's just crazy, crazy good. So unbelievably tanky, so strong. There's so many ways to play it. You could definitely play it with Woodhammer, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Curse, Horn Leech, or Curse Pain Split. I kind of love Curse Horn Leech because you are so unbelievably annoying. You'll pop your Curse, you will then run into your opponents with Horn Leech. As soon as your Curse is full, your Curse will explode, then you'll run into your opponents again with Horn Leech. It's just like a never-ending onslaught of annoyance and CC and damage. It's so incredibly powerful. For items, I like double stacking with a weakness policy if you're looking to lean into the carry portion of this. You could drop the Aos cookie for something like Focus Band, Resonant Guard. I think those are excellent options, but if you're already stacking, hey, might as well get some more HP right there, huh? You also could swap out that last item for something like a Curse Bangle, even a Float Stone to kind of reposition yourself a little bit better in some of these fights. But I do think having a defensive item on there is really helpful considering that you are insanely tanky. It's so difficult to take you down. You put a Focus Band or something there, it makes it even harder. Battle items, Eject is good, X Speed's really good for the Curse build, Potion also quite good. For emblems, you're looking at a 6 white, 6 brown. I think one of the surprisingly good parts about Trevenant is its early game. You actually secure really well. When something gets low, Will-O-Wisp right into an auto attack usually gets an easy last hit, and then you're so tanky, it's hard for them to punish you when you're kind of moving towards their side and looking to stack. You can get a lot of your stacks in early, and it's hard for them to stop you. Our next defender is someone I feel like we gotta talk about because it's not looked at as a stereotypical carry, but it just wins games so much and it's so powerful that I think it's worth mentioning. That is Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is insanely good. Sky Attack Fire Spin is the best build for Ho-Oh. It has the best win rate and it gives you the most options to win a match. You're gonna carry the hardest, usually with Fire Spin because it does a ton of damage, but Sky Attack is really fast, really annoying, can steal wild Pokemon, and also can pick up some surprising KOs. If you're looking to carry, I would recommend double stacking with weakness policy. That's attack weight, Aos cookie, weakness policy. Your battle item is probably going to be X Speed, but Potion is also quite good. The thing about Ho-Oh is, a lot like Trevenant, its early game is just so difficult to punish. You have great Secure with Tailwind, and Safeguard gets you out of horrible situations all the time. You're going to be really aggressive. You're going to Sky Attack towards your opponents, take as much farm as you can. You could stop your Sky Attack partway through into a Fire Spin where they're just dealing damage to your shield. Now that Fire Spin is not bugged, also, you're going to make sure that you get that damage when it explodes. Ho-Oh is just amazing, and a huge tip for your Unite move. Please, listen to me. Use it early. Don't wait till your whole team is down. Use it when 1 or 2 is down in a big fight. It changes everything. Emblems, of course, 6 brown, 6 white. There are more defenders I could talk about, but I want to take just a moment to talk to you about Crustle. Some people have forgotten about Crustle, but I urge you not to forget about how insanely good this Pokemon is. Now, if you're going full carry, you can run Shell Smash and X Scissor. You can play it with critical hits. You could really run an attack weight, a scope lens, weakness policy, something like that. You don't need to run a build like this to carry, but you absolutely can. This also does well just with tanky items like Resonant Guard and Focus Band, sometimes Buddy Barrier, but I always worry about an Umbreon or something like that on the other side, so I don't run it as often on this Pokemon. A lot of what you're doing with Crustle is disrupting your enemies, whether you're playing Shell Smash or Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb's disruption is amazing, and then you are positioning yourself to X-Scissor them into walls. That is what you are focused on. Put them into your Rock Tomb, put them into a wall, and then to add insult to injury, you can use your Unite move right afterwards, stun them again. Once your X-Scissor comes back, stun them again. Crustle is incredibly good. Also has a really solid early game and only needs to evolve at 4. For a battle item, I highly recommend an eject button because you can actually change your X-Scissor mid X-Scissor, so you can leap towards opponents. You can reposition yourself slightly to make sure that you land that. It also can help you even land your Unite move. It's just hard to get near the enemies. You can eject in and use your Unite, then into an X-Scissor into a wall. It can be very, very powerful. Emblems, 6 white, 6 brown. Good luck out there carrying with Crustle. We've talked about attackers and defenders. I want to talk to you about speedsters. Here's the thing with speedsters. All of these are crazy good carries. They're carry Pokemon. Any of these with a nice level lead, especially set up into a team that kind of has squishier Pokemon on it, not a ton of crowd control, can do very well. But I want to talk to you about some that are doing really well in this meta. First off, let me tell you a couple I'm leaving out of this list. Leafeon and Zoroark. It's not that they're not great. They are really great. I do think they require a super high level of skill, even though kind of all of these speedsters do, because for whatever reason, these ones never seem to really make things happen in the win rate department. I think it's because most players cannot play these Pokemon at a decently high level. The first speedster I want to talk about is one that recently got a buff and has kind of resurged into prominence. That is Absol. Absol is doing actually pretty dang well. In fact, I think Absol has been doing well for a while. It's just one of those Pokemon that people forget about from time to time, and then all of a sudden they see the amount of burst damage it can do and realize that this thing is crazy powerful. The items I would recommend easily enough, it is going to be Scope Lens, Razor Claw, and Energy Amplifier. You could swap out Energy Amplifier for something else that you like an attack weight or a float stone, but in general, I think this is the way to go because your Unite move is such an amazing delete button when you set it up correctly. You could also run Charging Charm with it, which I think is pretty strong with the build I'm about to tell you about, which is Pursuit Psycho Cut. Not because of the Psycho Cut buff, really. The Pursuit buff also is kind of whatever, but it makes it so when you kind of miss your Pursuit and you're not hitting them from behind, you still have options to KO your opponents. After that, if you hit enemies with a Psycho Cut and then go right into a Unite move, there are a lot of Pokemon that you just instantly delete, partially because you're a higher level than them. If you're a speedster, right? You're often one of the highest levels on the map, and also partially because it's just a really fantastic combo. If you use this correctly in some of the big fights, you will change the game. You can knock out multiple enemies at once, or at least get them very low from full health. For battle items, I like eject button so that if I get into a bad situation, I can get myself out. I know some people run X attack with this build. That way, when it's time to, use that huge combo, they do even more damage and then chase their opponents down pretty aggressively. You definitely want to play the central area for this. You really need a level advantage, but once you have it, you can get super aggressive. The emblems, of course, 6 white, 6 brown. The next Pokemon I want to talk to you about is everyone's favorite. Well, it's my favorite, Dodrio. No matter what they do to Dodrio, it still seems to hang in the meta. If you're a good Dodrio player, you win with Dodrio. Obviously, this Pokemon does really well against squishy enemies. The build that you're going to be looking to play is Tri-Attack Jump Kick. You can still win with Drill Peck, and Tri-Attack Agility sometimes is necessary if your opponents have an insane amount of crowd control that you need to cleanse, but Tri-Attack Jump Kick is the preferred build, and it's the one that's going to win you you the most games. Dodrio is complex. I have a guide of it up on my channel if you want to take a look. It's hard for me to give you a lot of tips about Dodrio. I'll tell you the items you should run, which is going to be attack weight, razor claw, and either charging charm or float stone. I think charging charm is really good for the try attack jump kick build. You charge it very easily because you're always running around the map, and it just helps you get extra burst in some of these big fights. As far as your battle item, full heal is amazing, but I kid you not, potion Dodrio is actually extremely good. And I think it's because people just don't expect you to have any survivability in some of these fights. You kind of go in, they hurt you a little bit, you use your potion, you get your sprint gauge back up, you head back in and look for another big KO. The emblems, of course, 6 white, 6 brown. The next Pokemon I want to talk to you about is one that I'm surprised has made this list, but I think it's doing really well right now, and that is Talonflame. Talonflame recently got a few buffs. In fact, it's kind of gotten a smattering of buffs over the course of a year. They still haven't buffed Fly, but they've kind of buffed everything else about Talon. Fly Flame Charge seems to be the build, but Fly Aerial Ace is still really good. And then, I mean, honestly, Brave Bird, if they're a squishy team, is so unbelievably mean. The items I would run would be Razor Claw. I just want to throw this out there. You can play this Razor Claw, Charging Charm, Float Stone, and it is insanely good. I know everyone wants to stack on Talon, and stacking is great on Talon, but you don't always need it. You get an insane amount of move speed, enough attack because your moves actually burst a ton on their own. Of course, you can swap out one of those move speed items for an attack weight and get even more damage. I think the battle item for sure is going to be the eject button. There is a Shedinjadal build that you can kind of do with energy amplifier and black emblems, which is kind of cool, but I think you just get way more out of having an eject button because you're able to chase down KOs that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. One of the big strategies you can use with this is as you're flying in the air, first off, if you have float stone and you're not in combat yet, you have increased move speed, right? If you have Gale Wings on your passive, you have increased move speed. If you have a charging charm, you have increased move speed. And if they're still far away, you can eject mid-air and land on them. It is incredibly powerful. I don't think Talon is the best speedster in the game. I think Leafeon and Zoroark probably are still a little bit better, but I gotta shout out Talon because it's actually doing really well right now. And the build is so insanely fun. Emblems, of course, white brown. Finally, I want to talk about Meowscarada. Night Slash Trailblaze is good. It is a good build, but it runs into a lot of situations that are not positive for it. There are just so many things that you can't jump in on, so many enemy teams that are full of crowd control. It's not a winning build right now, although there are situations where you can absolutely dominate. The better build is Flower Trick Double Team. Kind of always has been Flower Trick Double Team, but it's a way more complex build, so I understand why people don't play it as much. A great item setup for this is attack weight, Razor Claw, energy amplifier. It works really well with your Unite move. Used to work better before they increased the timer of it, but this also helps you charge back a little bit faster. Other items that work pretty well are things like charging charm, weakness policy. They're all pretty solid. You can use a muscle band as well. You don't really need to go sort of the muscle scope razor route unless you're running Night Slash Trailblaze. But for Flower Trick Double Team, you're looking for that big burst of damage. I've got plenty of Meowscarada videos on the channel showing off this build. I think the big thing, use your double team to bait your opponents into using their moves. Then you can decide if you're engaging or not. There are lots of times where you don't, and then when you find a good opportunity, you switch places with your clone, you move in, you hit them with a flower trick, you make sure that, you know, you get big bursts of damage because the lower their HP is, the bigger the execute damage is, and you just start chaining KOs through the enemy team. It is a tricky Pokemon to play, but all speedsters are. Of course, the emblems, once again, 6 white, 6 brown. Oh, and I should say the battle item. The battle item from Meowscarada, I think, is a non-negotiable. It is eject button. You have to be able to move your Unite move. You have to. It changes the game. I know some people like Shedinjadal. Those people are insane, and they should be locked away in Arkham Asylum, okay? You need to be able to reposition your Unite. It will change the way you win games to where you're actually winning them. We're going to move on from our speedsters, but if you feel like I left any out, to be fair, they're all great carries. They really are. And if there's anyone that you're doing very well with, keep it up. They're hard Pokemon to win with, but once you get good with them, you can really dominate. Next, we're going to talk about our supporters. And no, these aren't stereotypically carry Pokemon. There are I think, better ways to play these, but I'm going to tell you how to carry with them as best as possible. And we're going to start with probably the strongest carry, Mr. Mime. Either Confusion Barrier or Confusion Power Swap, but usually Confusion Barrier seems to be the strongest carry build for this Pokemon. You set up the barriers, you knock them down with Confusion, huge stuns right into a Unite move. Your items are going to be a Slick Spoon, Special Attack Specs, and then Choice Specs. You could drop Choice Specs for something like Resonant Guard. Of course, you could always run EXP Share, but it's not really what we're talking about here in this video. However, I do think it is incredibly good. You also could run an Energy Amplifier. It just gets your Unite move back a little bit faster and helps you deal a little extra damage when you do end up jumping in for that big fight. For a battle item, I personally like Eject Button so that I can maneuver around the battlefield. It also helps me land my Unite move in some crazy situations as well, which I think is very, very powerful. Your early game is amazing. You're going to head towards the opponent's side of your lane. You're going to steal all their farm with your big time slap. You're going to get your stacks, and then after that, it's going to be really hard for them to deal with you because Confusion is so strong and such a good secure. You're going to use that early game advantage to get your Unite move quickly, and then in every big fight, you're going to set up a barrier, you'll throw a Confusion, you'll hop in with your Unite move, and as soon as you're done with your Unite, another Confusion right into a wall. Just huge damage, huge KOs. A difficult Pokemon to play, but a Pokemon that can carry super hard. For emblems, you may want to run 6 green, 6 white for this, but you also could still run 6 white, 6 blue, 2 green and still do very, very well. Our next carry supporter is going to be Eldegoss, the Eldegod, with a few different ways you can play it. I actually think Pollen Puff is probably a stronger carry option than Leaf Tornado. Leaf Tornado actually is pretty good, but I still think Pollen Puff, it does damage to enemies and it heals allies. It doesn't feel like the carry choice, but I do think it is. Cotton Spore, on the other hand, sets up some big moments for you and the team. That's the knock up. It's just the incredible move speed that you're able to get. The items I would recommend are EXP Share. I know we're going to drop that for this video, but EXP Share is insanely good and you should run it. Muscle Band, Rapid Fire Scarf, and then the third item, there are a few different options here. So you can see we're leaning into our auto attacks, right? Which makes this thing just so incredibly mean early. You could stack Special Attack Specs here. You could run a Buddy Barrier, but it's hard not to want to run an EXP Share. Resonant Guard is a pretty good option for this as well, but there isn't really a third item that is incredible for damage. You could run Choice Specs, but you don't have a very high special attack stat, so it doesn't do a ton for you. For battle items, I like an Eject Button or X Speed. Both of them help you chase your opponents down. However, I also love X Attack. Once your Rapid Fire Scarf procs, you hit your X Attack and you just end up attacking so fast, slowing them in brutal ways, and you often win your lane early, and you are super, super annoying, especially if they're trying to stack. They're not going home. Well, they're going home just through the Pokemon Center. For emblems, this is one of those rare times where I recommend a 7 red build. When you've got the Rapid Fire Scarf, the X Attack, 7 red, you're just getting even more attack speed in these crazy moments. Is it necessary? I don't know. Is it necessary to win? Yeah, I'd say it's necessary. Or run like 6 green, 6 white or something. 6 green, 7 black, also pretty good. But it's necessary. Our next carry supporter is going to be Wigglytuff. The tough thing about Wigglytuff is in its name. But the tough thing about Wigglytuff, if we're being serious for a moment, is the fact that it doesn't actually scale super well, so it's weird to run special attack items on it. However, this Pokemon does carry pretty dang hard, especially early game. I think Sing Dazzling Gleam carries about as hard as any Pokemon in the first like 5 minutes of the game. It starts to fall off in value a little bit as the match moves on. You could also, of course, play Rollout, Double Slap, but Sing Dazzling Gleam has a huge pop of damage, really nice secure, and sets up big wins for the squad. It's hard to recommend running Wiggly without EXP Share. I don't even know if I can, but for the sake of talking about a carry build, I will. For me, I'd want extra HP, so I'd be stacking an Eos Cookie. I could run a Slick Spoon so I get more damage on my Dazzling Gleam, but I don't even know if we're really gonna need it. It might just be better to make this thing super bulky. Resonant Guard, Focus Band, and Eos Cookie. You're stacking up, you're incredibly tanky, you're insanely disruptive, you're staying near your enemies, you're putting them to sleep, and then you're hitting them with that big time Dazzling Gleam. I wish it scaled better so you could stack special attack specs. I mean, you could, but it just doesn't do enough extra damage, I don't think, to make a big enough difference. Emblems for this, I'd probably keep it tanky, 6 white, 6 blue, 2 green. Our final carry supporter for this guide is going to be the Hoopster. Hoopa is really good. It has a very similar build to Eldegoss, EXP Share, Muscle Band, Rapid Fire Scarf. If you had to drop your EXP Share, you could put something on like an Energy Amplifier. It is kind of super fun to use Energy Amplifier and X Attack once you use your Unite move and go a little crazy on your opponents. As far as your move set, I think if you're looking to carry, Trick is probably the way to go. Trick Phantom Force is probably better than Trick Shadow Ball. Trick Shadow Ball it's kind of fine, but it's not unbelievably good. I think Phantom Force is just too useful. It's too useful to disrupt your opponents. It's really useful to heal your allies, even though that healing's been nerfed considerably, and it's useful to get you out of some bad situations. A lot of what is really great with Hoopa is your early game, and then of course your ability to move your team around late game. So early, Rapid Fire Scarf and Muscle with an X Attack for a battle item is just going to make you so incredibly mean, so insanely aggressive, especially if they try to stack. And then as the match moves on, you'll use your Unite move in some big ways. You'll keep using that Rapid Fire Scarf, especially when you Unite, to do some crazy damage. Hoopa is amazing, and there are a lot of different ways to play it, probably a lot of better ways to play it, but this is a fun way to play carry Hoopa. As far as emblems, once again, this is a 7 red situation because of your auto attacks. Now let's move on to all-rounders, and there are a lot of them to talk about. Our final category for best carries in the game right now are all-rounders, and there are so many good ones. I'm gonna have to leave some off this list. It's just a huge group of Pokemon, and a lot of them are really, really good right now. Let's get into it. First, I'm going to start with Ceruledge. Ceruledge is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game. It's incredibly good whether you're running Bitter Blade or Psycho Cut. Even Psycho Cut Flame Charge has an incredible win rate. I don't think there's a bad way you can go on this. Probably the best build right now is Psycho Cut Phantom Force, but if you like having sustained fights, Bitter Blade is amazing with incredible healing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that build either. The nice thing about Psycho Cut is you'll reset this move a little bit faster and your allies can kind of help you with it, but Bitter Blade is friggin' great. Like, Ceruledge is great, and then Phantom Force is a get out of jail free card, then you pop back up and do true damage and get a boosted attack, and this Pokemon's insane. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I've got a lot of Ceruledge vids on the channel. I have a Ceruledge guide either up or coming out very soon that you can check out. The items I recommend are Muscle Band, Razor Claw, Energy Amplifier. I think this is insanely strong. It sets up huge wins in some big fights. You could drop Energy Amp for things like attack weight, weakness policy, Curse Bangle. I think these are all very reasonable options. For me, I like Eject Button as my battle item. I wasn't really sure what I was vibing with the most. Sometimes the enemy team requires a full heal. I also have been running X Attack, and that's been working out really well also. It just, you do so much damage so fast that something like X Attack just gives you a nice little burst to that as well. Ceruledge is nuts. Hit your level 5, and then the world is your oyster. Remember, after every single move is a boosted, and your enemies go bye-bye. Oh, emblems. 6 white, 6 brown, of course, with a little extra critical hit. Just drizzle it on there. You know, drizzle it like you would when you're sprinkling. Next, I have to talk about Blaziken. Obviously, I don't need to talk to you about a moveset. You get everything when you pick Blaziken, right? For me, the build is going to be Razor Claw, double stacking. Double stacking because the healing from Blaze, your passive, is so incredibly powerful and it scales off max HP. That's why I run attack weight and Aeos Cookie. You could drop one of those items, either the Razor Claw, I don't really want to, or the Aeos Cookie, I don't really want to, for a weakness policy, and I think that is very good. You could run a Muscle Band as well. You're autoing a lot with this Pokemon, but for me, it's double stack and Razor, and you are just an absolute force to be reckoned with. With Blaziken, I feel like Eject Button's mandatory because you can redirect your Overheat, which is huge. Also with Blaziken, you have Rip with your kind of kick moveset, and then you have, or excuse me, with your like the fast punch moveset, and then you've got Secure with the kick moveset, which has Overheat inside it. It's just insanely good. It's so crazy good. One of the best, maybe the best solo queue Pokemon because it can kind of do everything. Of course, the emblems, 6 white, 6 brown. Things don't really change with a lot of these emblems, guys. There's a few sets that really make everything happen. Again, boost emblem video on the channel. Next, I want to talk about Gyarados. Gyarados with Dragon Breath is insane. It got a nice buff, so now you can proc Dragon Breath against objective Pokemon, which just lets you rip things down faster. It's just, they made Gary even better, basically. I think Bounce is most often the second move that you're going to want to use. However, every once in a while, Waterfall is amazing. I like using Waterfall when there are enemies to chase down on the other team and there isn't a lot of crowd control that's really going to ruin my day. I think Waterfall is pretty dang strong in that situation. For items, I like an attack weight. I think stacking on Gary is amazing. I love an energy amplifier because your Unite move is incredible. After that, there are a few options. Razor Claw is very good. I've seen some people like Scope Lens. Muscle Band's not too bad. Weakness Policy is quite good. And you could also run something like a Resonant Guard if you're looking to be more defensive. However, I usually just lean into all damage with this Pokemon. Battle item, I think Eject Button's kind of necessary because you can slightly move your Unite move. So even if enemies get out of it, you can kind of like hop towards them in a big way, which is amazing. For Gyarados, of course, you need to manage your early game. Try to get some stacks, try to get a few KOs on wild Pokemon. If you can get an assist or KO on an enemy, you're going to evolve right away. And then the world is really your oyster. Once Gyarados evolves, it is so incredibly powerful. Dragon Breath is so mean. Bounce, now you need a full charge to knock enemies up, but it's not hard to get it, and charging Bounce makes you unstoppable, which is just insanely good. Gary is crushing it right now. Emblem 6 White 6 Brown, if I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. I want to talk about two EX Pokemon that I think are quite good. That's Mewtwo X and Zacian. I'm not going to go into full builds for them. I do have those on my channel. Zacian, I still think Sacred Sword is better. However, I've been having great games with Metal Claw, so who knows? I like running Muscle Band and Rapid Fire Scarf on Zacian. For Mewtwo X, it's like every build works on this Pokemon, and it's because it's just so incredibly tanky and so dumb. For Mewtwo, I really enjoy playing is a fun thing to say with Mewtwo. I really enjoy playing Recover and then either Psystrike or Future Sight. I think I like Psystrike more. Recover on Mewtwo is so dumb. You can play it super tanky, you can play it as a supporter, you can play it with Weakness Policy, attack weight for more damage. Like, Mewtwo is Mewtwo. We know this. Let's talk about one that I think a lot of people wouldn't expect to be on this list, and that's Garchomp. Now that Garchomp has been changed, or I guess now that the items and the way they interact with Pokemon has been changed, and you can actually proc your Rapid Fire Scarf with just one big swipe hitting multiple enemies, Garchomp's attack speed whirs up so incredibly fast. I still think the Dragon combo is the best because if you catch the enemies in a Dragon combo and then move right into a Unite move, there are many Pokemon in the game that are deleted in that moment. It's kind of a game-winning play, but Dig Earthquake is doing very well, and I think the biggest reason Dig Earthquake is doing well right now is because you are able to proc your items faster, so you can just rip through enemies quicker. The items that I would recommend are going to be Muscle Band, Rapid Fire Scarf, Scope Lens. I know some people are switching out Muscle. I don't know. I think it's amazing. I think Muscle is just so incredibly good for this Pokemon. Charging Charm is also pretty dang good, but Scope Lens is a hard one to ever drop, in my opinion, because your boosted has multiple opportunities to crit, so I wouldn't drop that, and also it just gives you the opportunity to KO opponents easier. Your emblems, of course, are going to be 6 White, 6 Brown, again with the Dragon combo. Get them in that combo right into a Unite move. For Dig, interestingly enough, you can start with Dig and not even move right into Earthquake because sometimes Earthquake gets canceled. So you can Dig, move towards your enemies, give yourself that huge boost to your special defense and defense, fight for a minute, and then Earthquake once their stun moves are down, so they're not going to stop you from using it. You also can use Earthquake to kind of zone enemies a little bit, so if they're deciding to move in, now they're getting hit by that Earthquake. Next, I want to talk about Mimikyu. Whether you're playing Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, or Play Rough, Shadow Sneak, Mimikyu is nuts, an incredible carry. I do think that Trick Room is cheesy and kind of fun, but just not as good. For Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, I recommend Razor Claw, Muscle Band, and an attack weight, or you could run Razor Claw, Weakness Policy, attack weight. I do think Muscle, after getting the change where it hits twice on the boosted, is actually really good, so you definitely could run that and not need to run either Weakness and Muscle at the same time, although extra attack is awesome because that's what's going to determine so many of the things that happen with Mimikyu: the damage of your Shadow Claw, the healing you receive, the damage of your Unite move, etc, etc. For using Play Rough, I know some people like using a curse item. That way, when you lock onto your opponent. Even if they have a healing through a focus band or through an ally, you can sometimes break through it. I don't like Play Rough as much as Shadow Claw. I think Shadow Claw does a little bit better. Play Rough is great though, and there are certain instances on the enemy team where making yourself invulnerable for a moment is just so incredibly good that I could definitely see why you'd run Play Rough. So for instance, imagine that the enemy Glaceon hits you with Icicle Spear. You play rough, you're invulnerable while those spears are crashing. I mean, it's just really, really powerful. For battle items, I like full heal, I like eject button. X attack is also pretty good for Mimikyu. The real strategy with this Pokemon is get your level 5 and then have fun, because you're insanely powerful once you hit that big power spike. 7 is big also because then you get Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak your enemy, you get this nice moment where you decide whether you're going in or not. You can kind of see how the enemies are behaving, whether or not you're moving in. Or if you Shadow Sneak the Trevenant, yeah, probably not jumping in. You Shadow Sneak the Delphox, let's go, let's end this thing. You can usually combo them with a Unite move and just end everything in one go. So you can Shadow Sneak into a boosted, into a Shadow Claw, or Play Rough right into a Unite move, immediate delete button, your Shadow Sneak is back, and you can bounce to another enemy. It's insanely powerful. Boost emblems, this is gonna be a shocker. Hope you're ready. 6 brown, 6 white. Sorry to drop that on you, but it's true. And I've saved maybe the best for last. I don't know. There are a lot of great Pokemon in the game right now, but it is Charizard. Charizard got a massive buff. The buff being that its Unite move is no longer cancelable. You can now Unite just about any time as long as you're not stuck in something bounding you, like Mimikyu's Unite or Slowbro's Unite. You can even cancel a Slowbro Unite by uniting it. It's crazy strong. The best build is still Flamethrower Fire Blast. However, Fire Punch and Flare Blitz are both really good. Sometimes Flamethrower Flare Blitz is really great. So the way that I decide which one I'd like to run, Flamethrower is often better, especially if you know the enemy has a lot of stuff that can stun you. And this game has a lot of stuns in it, so it's usually better to kite your opponents with Flamethrower. If the enemies don't have a ton of stuns and they're more brawl heavy, Fire Punch is amazing. It has that nice little, shove to it that messes with your opponents. And then between Fire Blast and Flare Blitz, Fire Blast is if I'm kiting the enemies. Flare Blitz is if there are things on the enemy team that are pretty fast and I want to shut them down. The great thing about Flare Blitz is not only does it give you a massive shield, the shield is incredible, it's also a sure hit that will lock on to some of these squishier enemies. So when I see a Dodrio, Leafeon, stuff like that, and I know they're going to want to move in, move out, be in some weird positions, or I know the enemy is going to be trying to stay away from the fight, Flare Blitz, when you're close enough, it's just an immediate boom, right onto them, and then they're kind of done for. You can run that with Fire Punch because it combos really well, but it also plays well with Flamethrower. For a battle item, I like X Speed just so I can chase people down with my Unite move even better. And the real strategy with Char, of course, is get your levels early and then move in for KO after KO with your Unite move. Items are interesting because I think there are a lot of different ways to go. Stacking on Charizard is not bad, but in general, there really isn't a bad setup for this Pokemon. You could still run a classic like Muscle Band, Scope Lens, and Weakness Policy, or Energy Amplifier, and do crazy work with it. Curse is also really solid on this Pokemon, especially if you're doing the Flamethrower Fire Blast build, because it's just kind of more time where more enemies take that, Curse debuff. Also, stacking is great. As I mentioned before, it is very strong. I think if you're stacking, you're probably running Fire Punch and Flare Blitz because they scale better off your attack stat. For your emblems, 6 white, 6 brown. Something new and refreshing, something different. Oh, and as far as your held items are concerned, I should mention the only thing I wouldn't mess with is Scope Lens. You have such high critical hit rate, you're autoing all the time. I think it's the only non-negotiable item for Charizard. And there you have it, the best carry builds for every class in the game in Season 21. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. What did I miss? Let me know in the comments. I love you all. I'll see y'all soon. We did it.